Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H Event Space. You're tuned into the joy of the journey, a wonderful ongoing series with our dear friend, Mr. Chris Orwig, Sony Artisan of Imagery. Of course, a huge thank you to Sony for hosting this wonderful series and a special edition today. We're across three different time zones all
Yeah,
across the world. So we got everything covered. And Chris, I'll let you introduce your guest. We got a little nice introduction to him in the green room, but I'll let you do the honors.
yeah, and stay on just for a second. Also, we'll say I had the time zone totally wrong, so apologies for everyone that we were a few minutes late. And then Tom is someone who is our guest and I admire in so many ways, which I'll talk about more. And then Derek will have you back in. I just wanted to have you
Yes.
with that. Yes, and maybe I'll just feel free to sign off too, but or not sign off, but pass the baton, so to speak. But I'm coming in from my kitchen because I had the time zone wrong. I'm in Santa Barbara, California. Tom, you're in Australia, and I'll have you talk a little bit about where you are and what you do. But first, part of this whole series is about kind of reconnecting with this sort of pure stoke and love and passion that photography has the capacity of giving us. And one of the most beautiful things I found about photography is that one, we gain something, it's then a gift to others, and then it also builds community and we connect with people. And Tom's work and teaching is something I've long admired, and maybe just kind of felt, if that makes sense. So there's kind of a feeling to it that goes beyond, and that's the hardest thing to do in photography. So Tom, tell us where you're coming in from. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, Chris, good to see you, mate. I admire your work as well and the way you do life. I'm coming in from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful part of the world. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning here, which is my
Oh,
prime time, actually.
yeah.
And yeah, I live near a point break called Noosa, so the surfers amongst us would probably know the wave pretty well. It's a long point break wave that is frequented by longboarders and shortboarders alike. But yeah, it's my studio. It's my hometown studio, and yeah, I've been a photographer for 25. Oh, I've probably been a photographer for much longer than 25 years, but I've been a full-time photographer for over 20 years now, and it's both my passion and my career. And yeah, it's afforded me a lot of cool things in life. So yeah, I owe a lot to photography.
I love it. I love it. My dog just ran out the door, so we may hear a little bit of that in the background. I might close him out there. But onto this idea of photography, because I see and feel this in your work a lot, which is there's this idea, I think, that in image making that it's about the image, right? Of course. But then to your point on you kind of, hat tip to lifestyle and how we live and how we show up in the world and how photography affects that. I'm curious how this pursuit, what am I searching for? What is the wisdom you've gained from a few decades of doing this work in regards to how you show up in the world and who you are?
Mm, I think photography was a lifestyle thing for many years. So it allowed me to be out in the world and do what I want. I saw the all of my family and friends around me when I was growing up were sort of 9 to 5 workers, and I just saw that as like not the way forward. I just, even from a young age, I saw that doesn't really make sense that you work from Monday to Friday and just wish for the weekend. And then, most people writing themselves off on Friday night. So Saturday's a write off. And then finally they get one day where they're happy on Sunday. And it just didn't jive with me that, like, even on the radio, they would say, I remember back on the radio when people used to listen to radio, but like on Wednesday, I was hump day. I was like, oh, we're halfway through. And then it's like, thank God it's Friday. And we're just, everyone, the whole society is just wishing
Yes.
their life away. And I
Yeah.
just thought, I've got to find a way where I'm just loving Mondays just as much as I love Sundays.
Mm.
And that for me, when I was a teenager, early teenager, I found surfing, and that was one thing that really lit me up and I wanted to do all the time.
Yes.
And it sort of led into photography. But yeah, I suppose you said the lessons that it's taught me. I think it's to be present in the world. So I was a bit of a daydreamer as a kid, and photography sort of brings you into the moment. You've got to be aware. So like, I'm not just a photographer when I've got a camera in the hand. I'm a photographer every single day when I'm all walking around. So I might not shoot for 2 weeks, but I'll learn a lot about my craft because I'm present in the world. Like I'm looking at the light right now. It's sort
Yes.
of coming up through the trees. It's the morning, so I'm seeing the way the light hits. So just being more observant has been a really key thing. Also, I'm not the most social sort of person, so I've done a lot of my connecting with humans through a camera. It's given me an opportunity to uh, really connect with people and have sort of an excuse to get into people's worlds and make me curious. I just doubt very much whether I would have come out of the daydreaming stage or anything like that. If I didn't get into photography or wouldn't have been as social. And I've just like, lots of heartfelt connections because like when you're photographing someone, whether it's their passion or their business or what they've invested a lot of their life into,
Yeah.
you're tapping into the essence of that. So, it's been really cool to be able to do that. I don't know if that answered the question, but I
No,
went.
that did. It's so fun to hear you. And it makes me realize that well, one, a couple of reflections on it. One, I think what and how tell me if I'm getting it, but one of the things and that aligns with me as well is it turns you into someone who's deeply aware, presence you talked about, the light, you're kind of
Mm,
looking at the light. It made me aware of my light. I'm like, this light, this it's not great. I should be facing a window, but okay, well, I'll live with that. But you're deeply aware, but then you're also doing something about that awareness. In other words, we're shifting from being a passive consumer to a creator and being, I would even say when it comes to life and the way I see you live your life, you're like designing and you're talking about how you got into the career, you're like designing a life that you love. And I think that's one of these big lessons of photography is like you can frame anything you want. You can do whatever you want. But what you want to do is find a way, one, I think capture things that connect with you, and then I'm losing my thread a little bit here, but um, do so in a way that it changes who you are. So maybe let me just try to refine what I was go back to what you were saying, which was this idea of see it taught you how to be a creator, not just a consumer, and then a connector, not just kind of it got you out of your shell. Are those two things
yes.
fair to say? And I'm gonna
That's
relocate. We're gonna go rogue here just because we can. I'm gonna go. We're walking through the living room, and I'm gonna go near the front door where the light's gonna be a little bit better. There we
you know
go.
how to find the light, Chris. I know that.
Yeah. So that's feeling better. I'm now facing outside. I'll try to set my computer a little higher. Give me 1 second here. This is, I mean, I'm kind of trying to take cues from you a little bit, which is, notice and then do something about it. So I'm doing that myself. So that
Do it on
feels
the fly. That's good. Like
yeah,
right away, action right away.
action
Yeah.
right away. But back to you being a creator and then a connector. How does
Yeah.
that land? Does it not land? Tell me more.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's go. Um, I just love that create over consume,
Uh,
create instead of consume. So, going into this world in the last decade of social media, I think people are just getting like sucked into consuming a lot. And
yeah,
while I think social media's got good things, it's got that, you know, it's got a darker side where it can like really consume people because they get in the action of consuming.
right.
And and then you can flip that and use social media for such good things by creating and putting out in the world. And I know that people have to consume that, which is a bit of a paradox. But yeah, I think that getting yourself more into a creative space is a really good thing. And I think that it gets me out of out of my comfort zone and into a place like I have to bring a different part of myself out when I go and photograph a business, or when I go and meet a person for the first time and I've got to produce a result. So yeah, it's challenging every time, but it's like exciting, and I grow each time with it. And as I do it more, it becomes more and more comfortable, and I can even get more out of it because like I'm super present.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just bringing back to presence, because I was like just a daydreaming kid, and I think I was in the act of just like walking through life, whatever happens to me,
Mm.
rather than going out there and recording it and creating it. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that
and then
lands me.
maybe just pivoting this a little bit too to this idea of presence. Um, I've through different things, I've had the chance of working with some C-level executives, some astronauts, and sorry, my dog's like drinking out of the water bowl right now, if we can hear that. But um, and in those environments, some basically high level people, they always talk about you need to have presence, and presence is incredibly valuable. So I'm just kind of thinking about that, and I'm thinking about the person who didn't have the luxury of having 20 years of living a life like you had, who is working a 9 to 5, who is grinding, who is living for the weekends. I'm curious what you would say to that person who's maybe discouraged. They're like, I'm stuck, and this isn't a profession for me. I'd love it to be, but it's not.
Mm,
Can photography still help me? And if so, how?
yeah, yeah. I think that there's no mistake. So the job that they're in right now is going to be skills that they can bring into their photography, right?
Sure.
So um, trying to like not pivot out of it, but see the value of their work. So um, yeah, so if if you've got you see the deeper purpose in it. So whatever you might be doing, you might be like the guy at the supermarket that collects all the trolleys and stuff like that, and you just might think that that is not where they want to be in 10 years' time. What you can do if you're the trolley guy at the supermarket, you can use that organization skills to like, stack trolleys and like, problem solve, and then talk to people as well. So a lot of what photography is, I don't know, if we're relating to moving from trolley boy to a photographer, let's say, is communicating with people, and you're going to be communicating with people all the time. So sort of see what's in your job with skills that you can build for a future career in something else, whether it be photography or not. And there definitely be parts of that job that you're doing right now that will benefit whatever you want to move to. And because we're on a photography podcast, it's most likely that some
Yeah.
people are thinking about photography. But yeah, people skills are the biggest thing. Like you get reasonably good at photography,
Mm.
and you can start really making a difference in the world with your photography and earning from it, because a lot of the time it's those people skills, being a good person, doing what you say, showing up, and being prepared, and like just you know nailing it and creating relationships. So with every job you can create relationships, so trying to find what you've got, and then consistency. So you come home from that job at 5 o'clock, and even if you've only got an hour before you've got to go and do things with the kids, or you've got other things to do, just spend like 10 minutes, an hour, but spend it consistently each day at either, you know, implementing something that you've learned, or journaling about the stuff that you learnt, or anything like that, picking up your camera, shooting a dog in the backyard. It's
Mm.
just as it's like dollar cost averaging. It's like over a long time. Like if, I could go back and tell my 15-year-old self to just put $10 a week away, I would have
Wow.
never missed that right up until my 48. I'm 48 now. But
Yes.
because of compound interest, that would have actually been a meaningful amount of money, but
Sure.
it wouldn't have meant anything, that $10 a week, right up until I'm 48. So it's like, be patient with it, but be consistent. So I would
Mm.
say, yeah, if the question's like trying to move from your job to something else, it's like, even if it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, if it's 2 hours a day, great. But like keep it consistent. Don't just like go hard at it for a week and then just forget about your camera for like a month and then expect anything to move. It's better small amounts over a long period of time.
Yeah, and I'll have another part of the question, but I think that's really speaking to this idea of craft, right? That craft isn't something you pick up quickly, and that what I'm hearing you say too is these small steps lead to bigger things when you're consistent. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes when we look at people who are I don't know, maybe successful and stuff, we forget that they've taken a lot of little small steps along the way to get there.
Mm.
And so I think that's helpful wisdom. The second part of that is what about I'm just going to go for the kind of weekend warrior idea, which is they don't want to change their job. They love their job. They're providing
Mm.
for the family. They they're in a groove. But yet they're turning to photography for something more. I think like in a lot of ways, maybe we turn to, you know, sports, hobbies, outside interest. Um, what do you say to that person in order to help them uh, hmm, maximize their time and their efforts when it's non-career focused? Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah, well,
And
first
maybe
of
we'll just
all,
go to surfing for a second. It's like there's some people who want to be professional surfers. That's one
mm,
person. There's some people who just want to surf for fun.
mm,
I think photography is a little bit similar. Some people are like, this is a job and you're a pro, that's great. But then there's other people who I just love it. But those people who love it, I just want you to talk to them and help me understand how you, because I know you teach a wide range of people. I imagine you teach a lot of people who just want more love, more passion, better results. But they're not looking, they don't need a job change. Yeah. Talk to me about that person. How do you help them?
sure. Well, for starters, in some ways, I envy that person
Yeah.
because I do. I have a lot of one-on-one students that, so I teach photography as well. I'm not sure if I said that, but over the last 4 or 5 years, I've done a lot of teaching, which I really enjoy and I'm passionate about. But I've got some one-on-one students that are exactly the archetype that you said. They've got a very well-paying profession and they want a photography to be that passion that they, yeah, do on the weekends or, you know, they tap into it very seriously, but they're looked after, so they haven't got that expectation. Like when I pick up a camera, a lot of the time it's for someone else's agenda. I mean, I bring in my love and my perspective, and they hire me on all that sort of thing, but it's like for an agenda. And those guys and girls that I talk to, and every time they pick up a camera, it's because they're absolutely fizzing on getting a certain shot, and so I envy that for starters. So if you like your job and it's a well-paying job, don't think that it's like so much better if you'll be a professional photographer, because it is just as much as a grind to keep it going. And it's a famine or feast thing as well. You like some months you're killing it, and some months you haven't shot anything you haven't got a job for 2 months. So to those people that think that photography, I'm not discouraging it. I reckon photography is a great life and I wouldn't want it any other way for my profession, but there is something so golden in
Yeah.
being looked after financially with the other job. So I would say it comes back to that, just really being intentional. So, like, not just photographing to start with, you photograph everything, right? But to really like go in and just don't photograph what the gram thinks, that likes. Like, you've got an opportunity where it doesn't matter if anyone likes your photos, because it's not relying on it financially. It really doesn't matter. It's like you've got to like tune into exactly what you want. And I see a lot of people just shooting what they think they're supposed to shoot. I remember there was no internet and stuff like that when I was learning photography, and it was film photography. And in the 90s, like I'd pick up photography books, and because there'd be old decrepit houses, shot in a landscape in Australia, or
Right.
waterfalls and stuff like that, I thought, oh, that's what I've got to shoot because that's what's in the photography magazines. And I'm sure these days people are like looking on Instagram, it's like, oh, this seems to be popular on Instagram, this is what I must shoot because I'm a photographer. But like really journal and like ask yourself the question, do I really like shooting waterfalls? Do I really like shooting old houses? Like maybe if you're into architecture, that would really resonate with you. But it's like I'm finding I'm shooting what was in the photography books just to learn and emulate, the people's photos that I really liked. But I think it's more important to like, yeah, like I've got one-on-one student who is shooting all sorts of stuff, but now he's really drilling down. He wants to use flash in an action situation in the water, and like he sold all his gear he was shooting models and he's shooting all sorts of stuff, and he's just going, nah, I'm going all in. He's supported with his job, and he's just going all in on this weird, like using action sports, and he just wants to get really scientific with it, and he just gets excited about that. And now all his focus is like to that, not like scattered all over the place. So I would say get a drifty focus on what you really want to achieve, because you've got the ability to, like, nothing's riding on it. Like you shouldn't have likes riding on it, that's for sure. And you don't have money riding on it. And you'll find that if you really go deep in on something that's like super like important to you,
Yes.
the rewards will be huge, and you probably get financial rewards as well. But like, don't go in with that sort of intention, I would say. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, that makes sense. This is much earlier, and I could listen to you all day long, like the way you articulate it, plus your Australian accent. It's just so cool. But the little phrases like you called shopping carts, that's what we call them here, trolleys, but this other phrase you said something like, maybe it was like fizzing like if you're just fizzing to photograph something, which I've never heard that phrase. I don't know if is that unique to Australia, that idea of fizzing?
It's a little bit off the cusp in the surf world, I think. Like,
Yes,
the
like
frothing. You've probably
frothing.
heard frothing. And it's
Yes.
like frothing's just overdone a little bit. So,
Okay, I see.
a few people are starting to say fizzing. Like, you're just excited,
Yeah,
fizzing.
yeah. So if you're fizzing, but basically what I'm hearing you say is really kind of tuning into what is making you excited. And what I have found too, like for people with that is kind of asking too, like, well, what's underneath that, so to speak. So for example, I mean, you're and maybe in a second I'll have you and I think we can do is have you share a screen and show some images. And so we can see some of your water work or some of your work in general. But where I'm getting at is, like, let's say what you are just frothing, you're fizzing, you're excited, you're really into is water, ocean, surfing. But then kind of asking yourself, well, what is it about that? Well, it's one, it gets you out at dawn. It gives you these special moments to really be connected to the ocean. It almost necessitates that you are around the ocean, right? Or I have another friend who's a bird photographer, and he's a really successful bird photographer. And for him, it's taken him all over the world. So first it was just like, birds are cool. And I was like, well, why are they cool? But then he studied them, he learned about their characters and their behaviors, and then it took him all these far reaches. Anyway, what I'm getting at is what I've kind of found in photography, and tell me if this resonates with you, but is like, it's a two-step thing as the photographer. One, something piques your interest and you take the picture. For me, usually it's not very good. And then second, you do the work of a photographer. And the work is where you're applying craft and skill and intention, and you're actually getting to know what's almost underneath the moment, because the moment isn't enough. And maybe I'll just go to, I think of some of your surfing photography things. It's not like there's this great moment, but I'm like, yes, there's this moment, but I've never seen this before. And it gives me this feeling. And I think once photographers get to the feeling, it resonates. Last story, then I'll flip it back to you. One of my early jobs, sunglass company, famous sunglass company, famous ambassador. And one of the people said, remember, I was like, okay, we're shooting sunglasses. He's like, no, this is not about sunglasses. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I thought this was a sunglasses job. He's like, this has nothing to do with sunglasses. And what it had to do with was this lifestyle, this mood, this feeling and this thing that the people who would wear these sunglasses would experience. And the sunglasses just happened to be there. So anyway, you get where I'm going with that. To do a successful shoot in that way, I wasn't like, okay, sunglasses. I was like, what's underneath that? So talk to me about that, if that resonates, doesn't. There's no right or wrong here. I'm just curious on how you respond to that.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd go one layer deeper. Like, you're saying that the surf photography gets you out at dawn and gets you into situations, gets you in the ocean, and yeah, that's all good. But one layer deeper than that would be like what attribute that I value the most is I think this is true for a lot of people, I suppose, but it's freedom, right?
Mm,
So back when I was a 12, 13-year-old kid, I lived in Adelaide, which isn't really a place for surf. There is surf like nearby, but like definitely wasn't a surf culture. And I remember I was in this place and there was this random Surfing World magazine there. And
yeah.
I was just flicking through it and it's just like, oh, wow, these pictures just captivated me. And it's like, I didn't know much about, I knew what surfing was, but I didn't know much about surfing. But these pictures were so powerful. And what I feel like looking back on it, the reason why it got me so hard was because these pictures and these articles, certainly the pictures for me, because I'm visual, just represented freedom. And it was like I saw so much freedom in that. And
Mm,
those pictures in turn got me to, somehow get my my mum and dad to get me a surfboard and like get myself down to the beach, which was like a half an hour away at least before you get any sort of swells, and then ride that first green wall. And it's like, oh wow, as soon as I did that, I was like, this is the life for me. So, but the thing is that without those pictures, without that inspiration, and without that feeling of freedom
mm,
that surfing so represents, and that's why it's like used for so many advertising campaigns outside surfing because it represents a feeling, right?
mm,
But yeah, those pictures were so powerful that it got me into surfing. And then I surfed for many years through my teens and then thought, oh, I've got to start recording this. And it was like a not super conscious thought, but I was just like, I'm trying to recreate what
mm,
sparked that inside me and gave me a life.
mm,
So yeah, it's when I'm going out there, I'm looking to replicate that freedom, that warm light, the first light rays of the morning, hitting the surface of the water, or that stoke on that person as they just kick out of a wave or just paddle back to the lineup after getting the best wave of their life. Like that stuff like fires me up like
mm,
crazy. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about all those moments. So
mm.
um yeah, an eternal search for freedom. It's photography and surfing for me.
I love this eternal search for freedom. And maybe what we should do is we got to show some images. What's going to be, why don't I to kind of drive this? What's going to be a good way to show some of your work? What I know you sent me a link ahead of time, but I had this, yeah, because I had the scheduling wrong. Um, I don't have my slides
Yeah.
here with me, but what's a good way to look at your work right now so I can just share it with people?
Yeah, I suppose my website
Okay.
is I mean that's got a
Yeah.
wide ranging stuff, but if you go to my website, which is stimages.com.au, or I can even find, if you want me to share the screen, I can probably find,
Yeah, yeah, let's do. Well, I'll have you share the screen, and then Derek help us if or let me know if that works, and then
yeah, if I
uh,
can do it.
you can do it. Because I think with this, we're all visual here, and I think having some visuals would be huge.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see if I can
And I'm just
share.
gonna, while you're checking, I'm just gonna also say, one, Tom and I just got to know each other through the internet, the beauty of that and the photography community, and shared some of his teaching with me. And it is like the best of the best, the best. So people who are interested in learning this style of photography that we'll see, um, know that Tom has resources that are helpful for you. Okay, let's go for it. I can see your screen and I'm
Can you
starting to.
see it? Yeah, I've just got it coming up in Finder, so it's a bit
Yeah, yeah, that's
rudimentary.
fine. Yeah,
If you can get the
keep it
picture,
casual.
that's fine. So, yeah, so just ocean for, I've got like a collection here of just moments where I'm in the ocean with my friends mostly. Like this is a good friend of mine. He's two-time world longboard champion, Harley Ingleby, who is an amazing surfer of all craft. And I sort of like, yeah, when he was about 16, 17, we formed a relationship and that continued on for many magazine articles and even a part in a Taylor Steele film as well. Did some video as well, but this is a mid North Coast. Just one of my friends, just having a ball, and small, but like just that light. I love that light.
Love that.
Always
Yeah.
gets me. A good friend of mine and his girl, Brett Keller, who is he's a sponsored photographer, sponsored surfer, but now I got him into photography, and he loves getting out with his camera more than he does surfing. So passing on the vibes. Yeah, is this the sort of thing you want me to do? Just run through a few photos,
Just
or
run through a few photos. This is wonderful. It gives
yeah,
context all that we're talking about. Like when we said, because you were talking about that feeling of freedom, and what you're really
yeah,
physically frothing, excited about, and then trying to fill the frame with that,
yeah,
in a way that requires a lot of technique. So the funny thing with water photography, I mean, people who haven't done it, it's really hard. I think it's one of the hardest kinds. Um, but and so when you get it, it's incredibly gratifying. Would you say that's true? I mean, like,
100%.
because
Yeah,
the water, the light, I mean, it's like the opposite of studio photography. Studio, you prep and you get it all dialed in, and there's gratification in that. But when you're out in nature and stuff's moving, it's a whole nother degree. And I guess too, I mean, I'll just say one more thing and then keep talking and clicking. But I mean, that's what I was thinking about, the guy or gal who wants to kind of ignite their passion for life and ocean and connection to nature, is like, go for it. This is a phenomenal way to go after it. And then it's a gift to you, it's a gift to others. So yeah, let's keep doing a little mini slideshow here.
yeah, it really is. And just on that, I just like that. I think with photography, you can combine it with any passion that you've got, right? So
Right.
that's why I encourage everyone to get into photography, because you've got this link where you can bring in your passions, but also your family's passions and your friends' passions. So
Yeah.
this is a bit of a side note, but like my son he's so into reptiles. Like, he goes and finds all sorts of snakes and lizards, and there's plenty in Australia, and he just loves it. And it's like, doesn't really interest me, but because of his excitement and because I've got the love of photography, like I'm happy to drive. We drive 10 hours out inland, out west, and try and find these snakes, and it's way out of my like ideal holiday, but I have the best time because I've got my camera, so I can bring my passion into my son's passion, and we're both having a great time, even though I'm not in the environment that I would normally go on holidays with. So that's where photography can win big time. But
Yes.
yeah, side
And
note.
just to add to that, there's no dollar amount attached to that except the joy of living, and that's kind of the theme of this thing. You're out there and you're just like loving it. And then I think to your other point you said earlier, when we are really joyful, excited, passionate about things, a lot of times accidentally there's a chance people pay for it.
Yeah.
Because they feel that. And has that happened with any of your reptile photos? Because those are so
Oh
cool.
yeah.
I mean, I love those with your son.
Not so much from my reptile photos, but that's happened a lot. And it's happened a lot for my students too, that aren't like trying to get paid from it or anything. But then people are like, yeah, just throwing money at it, like not throwing money at them. Well, they
Yes.
are actually.
Yeah.
And they're saying, oh, can you come and shoot this? And it's like, oh, I've just been shooting in the water surfing. Like,
Yes.
and then they end up like getting hired unintentionally. So yeah, that'll happen. But yeah, the reptile photo. That's just an example of like just something that's just so foreign to me.
Totally.
I don't pick up snakes and stuff like that, but he just is fascinated by them. But so you can mix your photography with anything in the world, any passion. But yeah, this is like, representing freedom. This is a fellow named Cameron Lindsay, who's like works very hard as a policeman, day in, day out. And for 2 weeks a year, he just gets on a boat trip and just hangs out with his friends and just surfs like 9 hours a day, really good surfer. And it was coming to the end of the trip, and like we've got really good photos throughout the trip. I haven't really got that barrel shot, and this is, I think, one of the last surfs of the trip, and just this thing came up, and it was a lot bigger than anything else that came through that day. And we just got our moment, and that now hangs in Cameron's living room and has for like quite a while now, and just inspires him to go on to the next trip. So just that, it's such a glimpse when you get in the tube. It's like, just a couple of seconds, and you can actually remember it forever. But to have a photo that like, shows that moment for you, just like solidifies that. So I'm so glad I got that from my friend Cameron, who work so hard all year. You just see wild things in the ocean. Hey, it's just like this day on a reef break where just a triple double up, and that power just sitting on the shoulder of just sitting in the channel with I was shooting this with a 100mm lens, so not that far away, but far enough to feel the power of the ocean. But yeah, combining landscapes with surf action, like back in the 90s when I got into surf photography, everything was super tight action, and the rare time they pulled back and showed the landscape, I was like really excited by that because I could feel myself in the environment rather than just the barrel shot or just the turn. So incorporating landscapes into surf action is a passion of mine. Sean Cansdell, a former world tour surfer, just my house is just behind my old house where I used to live on the mid north coast is just behind this sand dune, so it's a special beach to me.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Ooh.
so like literally just over there a little bit, and they used to back onto like a cow paddock, and
Yeah.
then 600 meters to the beach,
Yeah.
and now it's a housing estate. So
Oh,
it's like so sad, but anyway, everyone wants to live there when it's such a nice place. So, but the funny thing is that filled up. We lived there for a while the housing estate built up, but then the beach was still empty because I don't know, people just like living near the beach but not going to it. And that's another thing. But
yes.
yeah, just getting these split-second moments that you can't really judge, like you said, it's so contrived, or not contrived. Yeah, it is contrived and like planned ahead in the studio, and the light is precisely here, and the model is like on that spot. Whereas in the ocean, you just don't know what you're getting. You're going over the falls with the surfer, and you got your camera held out, and you've got a nail exposure focus and some sort of composition, and quite often it doesn't work out. And like if you're a land photographer, like when say I shoot surf action from the land, which I do and I enjoy, I can nail nearly every moment out there. But it's okay. In the ocean, I can swim around for 2 hours and get one shot, but it's just so much more impactful. So that's why I really enjoy swimming out there, and I get to be like right in there, in the barrel with my friend, and like it's all about experience for me with photography. It's like I just want to be in it, and that's why I love using wide angle lenses. Like this is shot with probably a 15mm lens, something like that, and so I'm like at touching
Right
distance.
there.
Yeah, like I'm experiencing it
Right
with
there. Yes.
Brett right there. So it's like
Yeah.
I just love it, and yeah, the ability to go the under and over world of split level photography, and yeah, obviously when you've got like I got into water photography obviously through surfing, but then because I've got this underwater camera, I can go down and see things and capture things that not many people can capture because most people don't have a waterproof camera. It's becoming more popular now, but like back in the day, it was pretty wild to get it. This is in a warm water spring. This is my daughter many years ago. She's now 20, but this is when she was probably 13 or something. And in a warm water spring, just like the light, I was just like went down, and this was a warm water spring, which like gets very populated with tourists, but we got up super early and had the whole thing for ourselves early morning. And obviously when it was quite dark at the start, and then yeah, these shafts of light came in, and it was like, yeah, this is what I love. And I get excited and all that, and going beneath the waves as well. This is a view that not even surfers see. So one of the reasons why I love surfing photography, and when I'm surfing, I can always see visions of things that look unreal, like just in the tube and stuff like that. But under the water, as a fin goes past, not even surfers see this because when you duck dive, you sort of got your eyes closed and it's very temporary and you haven't got goggles on. So this style of photo, I'm going out with once again a wide angle lens. I've got my mask, my goggles on, so I can see, and then I follow the surf. I swim behind the wave with the surfer and capture this sort of moment that's sort of otherworldly, and sometimes it comes off and sometimes it doesn't, but it's fun trying.
Yes. Ooh, love that.
So,
Love that.
yeah, so just that connection with,
Yes.
connection with Mother Earth, the ocean. I love the hand, just like, you're in it, you're immersed. You always just feel so much better after you surf and after I photograph in the surf, and I can come back happy. Like, doesn't matter what day I've got ahead of me. If I go out and either shoot at dawn, or most likely these days I'm normally surfing, but I come back with just a open heart and ready for the day. It's just a good way to start the day. But like shooting either end of the day is like fun for me. Playing around with shutter speeds to make what would otherwise be a reasonably boring shot a little bit more interesting. So I encourage people to play around with ultra fast shutter speeds, but a little bit slower shutter speeds.
Oof,
Yeah,
lovely.
just turtles, and I love turtles. They pop up with me. Like where I live at Noosa, there's two waves in particular where I've pretty much every time I surf, a turtle pop its head up next to me and say hello. So
Wow.
this is one of my favorite photos. I think it looks good, but it's more of like what it meant to me. It's taken out of airplane, not a drone. I resisted drones for many years because of that experience thing. Like photography for me is all about the experience. Being in the ocean, being hanging out the side of a plane or a helicopter, and like I am experiencing that with a drone. You're sort of sitting on the ground while the drone's having all the fun up and getting all the views and the wishing around the air. And like I'm sitting looking at a screen on my on the ground, and like I resisted him for a long time actually, and just went, nah, I'm just doing helicopter work. And my wife's also a photographer. She just did the drone stuff, but it's undeniable what you can get with a drone. So don't get me wrong. I
Sure.
think they're an incredible tool to just get out the back of your car and get a shot. This is taken a lot higher up in the air. I think with my 70 to 200 mil lens, and it's just in the Shark Bay in Western Australia. And it's like, I could tell that there was some good colors, but once you get out in the sky, it's like, I have never seen anything like that in my life. It's like, it just looks like a different world. And
Yeah.
that turquoise water hitting the red dirt of the Western Australian coastline is like, and I just remember that I was up there for about 35 minutes and it was like, wow, I was just having an absolute ball. And I was looking through my viewfinder the whole time, just like, and just when I got down, I just didn't realize how like I was so sick because like the plane goes around and around and around, and it's like, but I was like so excited about what I'd seen, and I got many photos from this shoot, but I think this one's the one that I love because I'm huge color lover. I love color contrast. So every time I see someone paddle out with a yellow board on blue water or this direct color contrast just gives it so much depth, which I
Let's do
really like.
this. Ooh. Let's maybe do one more, then we'll hop back to talking because I have a question follow up on this. But yeah, tell us this
Sure,
story.
man. Yeah. So this is the Bay of Fires in Tasmania, which is an amazing landscape. I scoped out this the day before, and I just thought if I can get just one sunrise, and I went to bed that night and it just rained all night on the roof, rained the whole night, and I just went, no, I'm still going to go because it's a bit of a hike into this where exactly this was, and it just cleared enough to like give us this magical sunrise because I really wanted a sunrise to complement these red Bay of Fire rocks. And yeah, I got it. And it was like literally probably 5 minutes. And then 10 minutes later, it rained for the rest of the day. So it was a special, it was just like a one. And I was only at that location for that day. So it was like, I just got super lucky. And you just, the more you get out there, the more lucky you get. That's the other thing. It's like, just keep going. But yeah, I'll flip it back to you, man. Do you want me to stop sharing,
Tasmania.
man?
Yeah. But just because I mean I could do this all day long. This is so
Yeah.
good. This is I'm gonna use the word fizzing. I'm fizzing. And then I also want to open it up in case there are questions. But one, I imagine for some people, they're like, okay, I get it. Okay, Tom's a legend, which you are. You have this experience, this passion, you're on this search, this freedom, you feel it. I mean, I'm like, this to me is such a special moment, even to just really get into the joy and passion of photography. And then some people, I like, for me, I'm like, do you sell prints? I guess, and I should know the answer to this. Do you sell prints? To your work?
It's not a big part of
Okay.
my photography actually, but I do sell prints.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
maybe,
it's not.
well, maybe I would love to, I mean, I would love to buy a print from you. There's some of those where I want to have those on my wall. And I imagine other people have that feeling. I mean, in your website, stiimages.com.au, or right? How does it go?
ST images. Yeah. So it's Sharon. It stands for Sharon Tom. My partner
Yes.
in life is Sharon, and so that's how we came about the name. But we get all sorts of street images, images, STI images as well. And it's like, oh well,
Okay.
it's our name.
Okay. Um, but and so there's just I mean, I think your imagery speaks volumes was the first part, and then your education. So I just want to, because we talked a little bit about educating. I also know this time of year people have sales on things. I have not looked if you are doing that, but I know in the past you have. Or just what would, if someone's like, I'm just going to use the word fizzing, they're excited. They're like, yeah, I want to learn from this guy, Tom. I've exposed to a new way of thinking, approaching. Um, what's the best way for them to start with what you have to offer as far as a teacher?
For sure. Yeah, so I do have a couple of free offerings to get a feel for the way I teach, and I think it's important to like resonate with your teacher. So I've got a YouTube channel as well that has got, I don't know, about 100 videos on it on various things. It's pretty heavy on water photography, but I do other types of photography. I do have a course that is dedicated to, it's quite a comprehensive course. It's dedicated to water photography, but I now call it a program because it's got like 90 something videos of how-tos on water photography. But it's also got a monthly check-in where I just like go on a Zoom like this and I invite all my members in and we just basically talk about photography and
Yeah.
our challenges and what's new in photography. So keeping that community together, and that
Yes.
gets me learning about what they actually want. And then I've just got a what I call a fundamentals course, I suppose. It's called Confident Photographer, which just runs through sort of the technique of
Mm.
photography and composition. That's called Confident Photographer. So at the moment, I do have a sale on the water photographer course. So yeah, it's had a significant discount. So yeah, you can contact me about that for this week. And
And
also,
I'm
I have a
putting you on
starter
the spot
course.
with all this. This was, but I mean, just to kind of qualify this too, like, and I believe this, Tom, I think you are by far, let me just let me just think about it. I think you're one of the top 10 photo educators in the world. I really do. I think you're so good at what you do educationally. And I know it's kind of awkward and embarrassing to talk about that because I didn't tell you we were going to, but I just want to share that with people. Mostly because I think you get it from this conversation. There's a lot of thoughtfulness and there's a lot of passion, and you have a way of bringing those two together, which is very empowering. Even that one where you talked about confidence, and that particular one, which I've watched parts of, it's helped me. It's kind of funny. It's helped me regain confidence because I don't know if this happens to you, but I can lose confidence. So
Mm,
it's like a nice refresher,
mm,
like regain it. And I think we regain it through experience, right? I mean, it's sort of like I'm just going to go a little rogue here, but it's like, let's say a surfer, well, I'll go with myself. Knee injury, I haven't surfed for a while. I'm not feeling very confident because I've been out of the water for some time. I've lost the confidence I had. So how do I regain it? So all that I'm saying, and I'm kind of, just encouraging people, whether you're feeling confident, whether you've lost your confidence, whether you don't have any confidence at all, um,
mm.
Tom's your man. And sorry, I interrupted there, but I just wanted to give my little, double shaka. Um, Tom, Tom would,
Thanks, brother.
yeah, yeah,
I never thought about teaching all through my photography career until yeah, 2018, 2019. And my mum always said, you be a good teacher, be a good teacher, because she's actually a teacher.
yeah.
And I just went, why would I want to teach it when I can just like do it? And it's like, and just teaching has extra been that's just made me such a better photographer
Mm,
because I'm talking about it all the time. Also going back to fundamentals and cleaning up my fundamentals, even though I've been photographer professional for so long, it's like just cleaning up these like little things that are just like
mm,
underlying that I just didn't have right fundamentally. And
yeah.
so it's been so if you want to learn something, I encourage whatever it is, photography or anything. I encourage you to teach someone else and you'll
Mm,
get more excited about it and you'll learn more about your craft and the results are so good. Like one of my students from my water photographer course, she started water photography, South African lady, and she started water photography with my course and bought an Aquatech housing.
mm.
And now, 4 years later, she just got awarded South African Photographer of the Year. And I was like,
Wow.
holy, it's
Oh my
like
gosh.
that's like that was like such a cool thing to be a small
So
part of
cool.
like Linda, like her name's Linda. She did all the work herself. Like I'm not taking any credit for it, but I was a
Yeah.
small part of her journey in that. So that's just so cool to be a part of. Hey,
Yeah.
it's not just about you anymore.
Yeah. And I'll invite Derek back on in a second. And Derek, maybe hop on when you're ready. But I think part of that, you have a great way of cultivating community. And I think what good educators, and one of the reasons why I've been around a lot of educators, I've been in this space again, same thing for a few decades and stuff. But um, great educators are ones who I think they kind of unlock something in the rest of us, and we all gain from it. So it's sort of this whole thing where I guess I'm just thinking in my teaching experience, there's those stories like you had, which are great, but then there's also stories where um, I've had students kind of point out things I do wrong, and that's really fun as well because they like we all grow together, I guess. You have a way of
Yes.
of doing that because it's not about like the teacher at the top of the pyramid. No, it's about this interconnected web. How do we learn from each other? And we're
Mm,
all there's photography, it's there's no perfect thing. It's like never stop learning is the rule, right? Never stop learning, be curious, be passionate. And Derek, you're back on. I'm so curious to hear if there are any questions. If you have any questions for Tom, if you have any reflections, I just wanted to bring you back in the mix because one,
You,
you're
I
so
can see
welcome.
how you guys clicked and vibed because
Yeah.
we were waiting and I'm talking to Tom and it's funny because we had a very similar how we clicked and it was like you deal with each other online. It's crazy the world we live in, how you can just connect and know that you're on the same wavelength as somebody.
Yes.
So and even just the approach. I mean, everything that Tom was saying, Chris, it sounded like the conversations that we've had.
Yes.
And Tom said something in the green room that I want to go back to that actually like stuck out to me, and it was that correlation between the person and the photographer. Like as you change, we talked about what are we interested in, what are we passionate in, and how it changes and evolves. And I think that's such a mature way to look at photography. I think we all grow up thinking that it's kind of you find your niche and then you stay there.
Mm,
And no, it's an evolution,
mm,
and it's something that it's constantly as you're changing as a person. We talk about it all the time. Your
yeah.
photography changes, what you like, what you're inspired by.
Mm,
And I think as we get older, not just what you're inspired by and what you like, but also you realize how precious time is. And it's what am I going to invest what little free time I have into? And it kind of to bring it full circle, it's that reciprocal nature, that you just mentioned, Chris. It's that learning relationship that isn't just student and teacher, but learning that, the right student is also can be a teacher, and the right teacher
yeah.
realizes that they're never disconnected fully from being a student.
mm,
Yes. And then even the subject matter, just add one more layer, is also a teacher always. Like imagine for you, it's surfing, you see someone, how they hold their hands, how they deal with difficult situations. Um, I do a lot of portraiture, obviously, but they're always the teacher
mm,
as well. And I think I've told this story before, but I was photographing a yoga teacher, and she stepped in some dog poop right at the beginning of the shoot, and she just handled it so graciously, like a yoga teacher would. Like she didn't even, she just like, well, that happened. And it was like, and in that moment, I was like, okay, the lesson for me is like, like they talk about the gap between stimulus and response, and someone who practices yoga and mindfulness and all this, she's an expert in that field. They allow that gap to be a little bit wider than the rest of us. So anyway, my whole point is students become teachers. The camera becomes a teacher. The content becomes a teacher, and it's reciprocal. It's a good way you put it.
definitely. Yeah, like going back to the subject, like my be open to not just getting yourself in a situation like when I'm photographing people in a situation,
Yeah.
uh just don't be too stringent on what you are trying to achieve. Be open to suggestions because like some of my best ideas come from a 3-year-old that says, why don't we try this? And like, and it's like, I'll sit down and listen to them. Why should we try that? And
Mm.
then, they'll go into a little bit more depth, and then it'll unveil something super creative, because up
Right.
until 7, we're very creative, and we can see the world in such a different way. After 7, we're sort of pretty programmed. So it's like, listen
Yes.
to 3 and 4-year-olds if you want to get creative, because they come up with the best ideas. But a lot of photographers would just go, "Oh, what would that little kid know? Just do what you're told," sort of thing. So, just being open to, yeah, not just your students, but your subjects as well. I think that's a good point too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you reach that point when you're like zero ego, where I don't care about where the idea is coming from. If an idea is an idea, or an idea is an idea is
Mm.
an idea, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. I love
Mm.
that.
Right. Right. And then, obviously a little cliche here, but you know, we're in this world of water photography and surfing. It's like catching the wave of this idea and coherence and synchronicity and all those things on being open to that, I think is what I'm hearing you say, being open to the 3-year-old, being
Mm.
open to subject matter, being open to the moment. Um, yeah, also what I hear from you, Tom, as well, is like that warm water springs, like get up early before all the tourists get there, or like just there's this openness to your work, but there's also this craft, and then maybe there's this drive you have, and you kind of combine those together. And to me, that really resonates with how I
Mm.
approach the photography. You can't just be open and whatever happens happens, because then you have really good craft. You can't just be craft focused, because then you have soulless images. And you can't just sit around and hope the moment happens. You have to like hustle and grind and go
Mm.
for it. So it's kind of beautiful how your work and your life illustrates all those, and then how it I feel like gives you a lot of energy, gives other people energy, makes the planet a better place. It's pretty,
Mm.
it's pretty amazing, It's like photography at its best, right? So it's really fun to get to hear your story. And then I know we're nearing the end of our time. I think this one we could turn into 4 hours, but we'll keep it maybe here. And um, I'll just see if Derek, if there are any questions. And then while you're thinking about a question, Derek, I want to Tom, just ask you, is there anything else you would like to share that you haven't had a chance to share that's coming in or coming up for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, just to go on from that last awesome bit that you just added to there, was just be intentional but be present. So there is all those things like, am I prepared, but am I pliable, and all that sort of thing. I think there, start with strong intentions and strong wires, and then be present, because then if you're too focused on, what you're trying to achieve, and like, I want this exact shot, well, then you're going to miss the moment if you're not present. All right. So
Yeah.
it's a balancing, or it's not balancing. It's like, it's be at the same time, strong intentions and
Mhm.
then super present. So that's what I would encourage. I would encourage people just to cultivate consistency, just basically just a little bit, even if it's like 10 minutes a day, you might not think it's much, but it's like that consistency. Um, Building connections, because like, as we know, like, connections will, give you clues on good places to shoot, or connections will like open you up to interesting people to shoot. So like, in your world, you must be amazing at gaining connections, because you've shot some super interesting people, and so yeah, you'd be able to bring a masterclass on that connection thing. But I think that opens up so many things. And then and then the other aspect would be patience. Not just expect it all to happen overnight. It's just like a patience in that consistency and with those connections, like connections that I made 10 years ago with no prior thought of where it could lead,
Yeah.
and have like presented in a, like, tens of thousands of dollars worth of work and stuff like that, or opportunities to go and visit a place, or to shoot. So yeah, let's go with just this time consistency, connections, and patience are 3 pillars, and be intentional and present at the same time.
Boom. I like this is one I need to re-listen to. And because I'm not taking notes, but it's so good. Yeah, and then Derek,
I'm over here.
from
I'm
you,
over here. I'm taking
will you
notes.
take a picture of your thing for me, your notes?
I gotta.
Yeah.
This is great.
And of course, I like how this has happened. Obviously I had the time zone wrong, but I think the impromptu and even impromptu slideshow and just really, to me, I had more formal stuff planned in the slide deck, and I think your authenticity as well really shines through, Tom. I think that's what makes your work has this genuine feel and this connection and all those things. It shows up in the images, and um, finding a way for us to do that as photographers is that's the trick, right?
Mm.
It's
It's the feeling. It's that unquantified energy that's in a
yes.
photo. So you can
Yeah.
get it perfectly exposed, perfectly composed, and like, does anyone care?
Yeah.
And it's
No
like
one cares.
the relationship between
Yeah.
you and the environment, or you, and especially with portrait photography, you
Yeah.
and the sitter, and that
Yeah.
time that you've spent off camera.
Yes.
And that somehow, I don't know how, but there's an energy in a photo, in a portrait. Like, you just look at it and you go, yeah, aesthetically it looks good, but why do so many people like this? Or why is it such a popular photo? And it's because of the relationship that's built between, the viewer and the sitter, or in nature's case, like your just love and dedication for a certain wave or a beach or a turtle or whatever. Like,
Yes.
there's that little bit of unquantifiable energy that's in a photo, and that's what I think sets a, because like it's pretty easy to, like, spend 6 months and get pretty proficient at a camera, and dial all that stuff in, but it's like a lifetime, or it's like real heart connection that makes a photographer like just that little bit better. And
Mm.
it's hard to like look at a photo and say exactly why, but there's an energy in a photo.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that
How about
idea.
that,
Love
Chris?
that.
That heart connection. Um, that resonates. Just to have fun with kind of surf stories. And those of you who aren't into surfing, hopefully you're realizing this translates to different genres and types of photography. And that's always a trick in education, is like listening to someone speak and make it applicable to yourself. But just to go down the surf road for a second, there's a world champion surfer, Sean Thompson, who I captured a portrait of years ago. And one of my goals always is that if I see the person the next day, that they're happy to see me. So in other words, I'm not taking a moment. I'm not overstepping. I'm not, and so with Sean, that's definitely been the case. And he's excited to see me at the juice shop or whatever. And then yesterday I was working on this project where had something I wanted to ask him, and it's like, hey, Sean. So he's like legend in our field, or in our world. I don't know how do we describe him in other worlds, but you know,
Mm.
I don't know, like if you're basketball, it'd be like some basketball legend, right? Or whatever. Imagine the legend in all of our own spaces. So I just text him. He's like, well, hey man, why don't you come over and we'll shoot a little video. And I was like, okay. So I went over to his house. We shot a little video. And the point being, I think, is like when you have that authentic heart connection with people, and that the goal isn't just the shot, it's not one and done. And this is the same thing with clients. It's not the first job for the client, it's the fifth job. Or the same thing I think of with like your local beach break. It's not like you get out there, you nailed one shot. No, it's like really cultivating something. So I think of farming a lot, that this idea of cultivation, that you're and that's in portraiture. I think that's incredibly important, but all these areas of photography, how do we cultivate this? And yes, seize the moment, honor the person and all this stuff, but build something that grows. And that's what I see in your work, and what I strive for in my own too. So
Awesome. Thanks so much. It's good to hear, because you know, uh especially from someone like you, because super
uh,
admire the way you shoot, and also the way you teach as well. I've watched many of your tutorials and gleaned a lot of great stuff about, yeah, connecting with a person. So yeah, thanks for
yeah,
your wisdom and your willingness to share, and your beautiful pictures. You photograph some of my favorite people, and Yeah, I just think that you're a lucky man, Chris, and you've got a wonderful family like I do myself. I haven't spoke much about my family, but they're actually my real core, and my real, purpose in life is my immediate family. And I know that's true for you too. So we connect on many levels, and I'm sure I'd love to take you surfing at Noosa if you ever come out to
That's a dream. That's a dream.
board out to Noosa.
Yes, yes. And then we'll drag Derek along with us. Maybe we'll do an Australia.
I'll carry the gear.
That's good.
Somebody's got to watch the gear on the beach while you guys are
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
You
Oh,
can
man.
shoot, you can photograph us so we can get photos.
There we go. You guys get the in the water
You
stuff.
can photograph us, the goofballs, out there. But yeah, that would be a dream to make it out your way. And thank you for, we had a lot of communication to kind of get the Australia time zone going and make this work. And Derek, thank you as well. And of course, thanks to Sony for sponsoring valuable conversations like this. And my deepest hope, here we are, at least in the States, kind of around Thanksgiving, there's a lot to be thankful for with photography. But for me, what's coming in most of all, more than any of the images, it's just the friendships that you make. You two guys are among those. And it's so amazing and powerful. And it sounds like, Tom, you too, when you talk about the people you photograph and stuff, and I know that in your family, it's photography is a gift. We have a lot to be grateful for.
It is.
Totally.
I agree, mate.
Wow, what a great conversation. I knew this was going to be a good one. From the second Tom signed, I'm like, this is going to be good.
Oh
This is
my
Chris in his wheelhouse right here. I'm like, you get another vibey surfer on, and there you go. We turned you guys loose. And didn't disappoint.
Had at it.
Awesome. Well, Chris, as always, and Tom, I want to thank you. Chris, we also figured out that when Tom logged on, we thought we were getting alternate universe Chris Orwig. We thought you grew a beard at first glance. I'm like, wait, what, is this a trick here?
Yeah.
But no, I want to thank you guys again. This is great. I mean, Chris, you said it best. This is the kind of conversations that we all need to be having. I think everyone is better off for it's nice to get away from bullet points and the curriculum side of teaching sometimes and tap into the inspirational side and get into the mind of the creative. So we want to thank you for always tapping into that and always bringing us great guests who go along for the ride. So huge thank you to these guys both here, of course, Sony, for hosting this wonderful content, and all of our viewers out there. You guys are stuck with us. So, but thank you for hanging in the ride. We hope you guys enjoyed this free education that we do here on the B&H Event Space. But it is time to say goodbye for the day. Another edition of the B&H Event Space now in the books from 3 time zones away. Catch y'all next time.